Hello everyone, today we are going to study about the extrahepatic biliary apparatus anatomy. The anatomical knowledge of this is very important as it is often affected in various disease processes like gallstone formation, gallstone inflammation, etc. It is often visualized in various imaging techniques and shows a lot of variations in pattern of its ducts, termination and their arterial supply. Hence, it's important to study its normal anatomy. The learning objectives for this topic is that the student should be able to describe and demonstrate the various components of the extrahepatic biliary apparatus under the following headings: the anatomical position, external and internal features, relations, blood supply, nerve supply, lymphatic drainage, and the related applied. Specifically, they should be able to understand the clinical importance of Callott's triangle and the referred pain in the cholecystitis, which is the inflammation of the gallbladder. The extrahepatic biliary apparatus primarily collects bile from the liver, stores it in the gallbladder, and transmits it to the second part of the duodenum. It basically consists of the right and left hepatic ducts, common hepatic duct, gallbladder and its duct known as the cystic duct, and a common bile duct which is formed by union of the cystic duct and the common hepatic duct. Let us now study each of these parts in a little more detail. First of all, coming to the hepatic ducts. So there are two hepatic ducts, right hepatic duct and left hepatic duct, which emerge at porta hepatis from right and left lobes of the liver. You are already familiar with the arrangement of structures at porta hepatis. These are from behind forward the branches of the portal vein, the hepatic artery and the hepatic duct. Next, by the union of the right and the left hepatic duct is formed the common hepatic duct near the right end of the porta hepatis. So the right and the left hepatic duct combine and form the common hepatic duct near the right end of the porta hepatis. Now this common hepatic duct runs downward for 3 cm within the free margin of the lesser omentum, like this. It is then joined on its right side at an acute angle by the duct of the gallbladder known as the cystic duct. The cystic duct and common hepatic duct combine and they form the bile duct or the common bile duct. A word about the accessory hepatic duct, which are present in about 15% of subjects. An accessory hepatic duct is a normal segmental duct that joins the biliary system outside the liver instead of within it. So this accessory hepatic duct may terminate either in the gallbladder or in the cystic duct or in the common hepatic duct or even in the common bile duct. Because it drains a normal segment of the liver and as it is arising from the liver, it leaks bile if inadvertently cut during surgery. Hence, its presence should be kept in mind. Coming to the gallbladder. Gallbladder is a pear-shaped reservoir of bile that stores and concentrates bile and discharges it into the duodenum by its muscular contraction. Various radiopaque substances are used to demonstrate radiographically the cavity of the gallbladder and its ability to concentrate and contract. We will study about that a little later. Coming to the location of the gallbladder. So as you can see, it is located in a fossa on the inferior surface of the right lobe of the liver, extending from the right end of the porta hepatis up to the inferior border of the liver. It is approximately 7 to 10 centimeter long and 3 centimeter broad at its widest part. It has a capacity of 30 to 50 ml. Coming to the parts of the gallbladder. Gallbladder primarily has three parts: the fundus, the body, and the neck of the gallbladder. Coming first to the fundus of the gallbladder. So fundus is a rounded projection which you can see here that projects below the inferior margin of the liver. So in this image, the interior abdominal wall is open. This is the liver. This is the inferior margin of the liver. And over here you can see the fundus of the gallbladder. Okay. So this fundus of the gallbladder comes in contact with the interior abdominal wall at the level of the tip of 9th right costal cartilage. The next part is the body, which lies in contact with the visceral surface of the liver and is directed upward, backward and to the left. The third part is the neck, which further is continuous with the cystic duct. This cystic duct finally turns into the lesser omentum where it joins the common hepatic duct. So over here you can see this is the lesser omentum, and here you can see cystic duct is joining the common hepatic duct and then forms the bile duct which runs in the free edge of the lesser omentum. So now what are the relations of the gallbladder? So you can see now anteriorly the gallbladder is related to the anterior abdominal wall and to the inferior surface of the liver. However, posteriorly you can see that it is related with the transverse colon which is running here and with the first and the second part of the duodenum. Coming to the duct of the gallbladder, which is known as the cystic duct. So this is your gallbladder. This is the fundus of the gallbladder. This is the body of the gallbladder. Over here, the gallbladder wall, and this is the neck of the gallbladder, and this is the cystic duct. So over here it has been cut, and you can see the lumen of the gallbladder in the region of the body, and in the region of the neck, and in the region of the cystic duct. So the cystic duct is approximately 3 to 4 cm long. It begins at the neck of the gallbladder, runs downward, backward and to the left, and ends by joining with the common hepatic duct at an acute angle to form the bile duct. Now you can see that from inside that the mucous membrane of the cystic duct form series of 5 to 12 concentric folds which are arranged spirally to form the spiral valve of Hester. Now this function of the spiral valve is primarily to keep the lumen of the gallbladder constantly open. So what is the primary function of the gallbladder? It is to concentrate bile and to store bile and to release it into the duodenum when required. Now this release of bile into the duodenum is determined by the presence of the fat in the duodenum, which stimulates a hormone known as the cholecystokinin, which results in the contraction of the gallbladder. We will study about this mechanism a little later after doing the common bile duct. Now keep in mind that gallbladder selectively absorbs the bile salts, keeping the bile acid. It excretes the cholesterol and secretes the mucus. Now remember, bile salts in the bile are important in emulsifying the fat in the intestine. Coming to the blood supply of the gallbladder. So in this image you can see this is your abdominal aorta. This is your celiac trunk. This is your then common hepatic artery. This is your proper hepatic artery. From this proper hepatic artery, this is your right hepatic artery and this is your left hepatic artery. You can see a branch arising from the right hepatic artery and running towards the gallbladder. This artery is known as the cystic artery. So the cystic artery, which is a branch of the right hepatic artery, basically supplies the gallbladder. Coming to the venous drainage, the cystic vein drains the gallbladder and then it finally drains into the portal vein. Apart from this, various other small arteries and veins also run between the liver and the gallbladder, supplying and draining it. Coming to the lymphatic drainage, the lymph is primarily drained into a cystic lymph node which is situated near the neck of the gallbladder in this triangular interval. From here, the lymph vessels pass to the hepatic lymph nodes along the course of the hepatic artery. And then from there finally to the celiac lymph nodes. Coming to the nerve supply of the gallbladder. So the sympathetic fibers comes from T7 to T9 segments and the parasympathetic vagal fibers, the two combine and they form the celiac plexus. Now, as I have told you, remember that gallbladder contracts in response to a hormone cholecystokinin which is produced by the mucous membrane of the duodenum on the arrival of fatty food from stomach to the duodenum. Pain from the gallbladder may travel along the vagus, the sympathetic nerves or along the phrenic nerves. It may be referred to different sites through these nerves. How? Through vagus it is transmitted to the stomach, that is the region of the epigastrium. Through the sympathetic nerves, basically the T7 segment, it is transmitted to the inferior angle of the right scapula, as T7 segments receive pain fibers from the skin over the inferior angle of the scapula. Through the phrenic nerves, it may get referred to the right shoulder. Next we come to the bile duct. As I have already told you, it is formed near the porta hepatis by the union of the cystic and the common hepatic duct. It is approximately 7.5 centimeter long and 6 millimeter in diameter. It is divided into three parts with respect to its relations with the duodenum. Sorry, it is divided into four parts. So what are these parts in relation to the duodenum? The one which is above the duodenum is the supraduodenal part. The one which is behind the duodenum is the retroduodenal part. The one which is below the duodenum is the infraduodenal part, and last part which pierces the wall of the duodenum is the intraduodenal part. So, what is the course of this bile duct? The bile duct runs downward and backward. How? First in the free margin of the lesser omentum. And which part is this which is running in the free margin of the lesser omentum? The supraduodenal part. Then you can see it runs behind the first part of the duodenum, and this part will be the retroduodenal part. Lastly, it runs behind or embedded in the head of the pancreas, and this part is the infraduodenal part. Then near the middle of the second part of the duodenum, it comes in close contact with the main pancreatic duct. So this you can see is the main pancreatic duct and accompanies it through the wall of the duodenum, which I have told you. So ye part, which is this part, this is the intraduodenal part. Remember that the intraduodenal course of this duct is very oblique. Within the wall, the two ducts usually unite to form the ampulla known as the ampulla of Vater or hepatopancreatic ampulla. I will just talk in detail about this ampulla after the relations of the common bile duct. So what will be the relations of this common bile duct? The supraduodenal part, which was running in the free margin of the lesser omentum, will be related anteriorly to liver, and posteriorly you can see what is behind it, portal vein and the epiploic foramen. To left of it lies the hepatic artery. Next, the retroduodenal part. Retroduodenal part, as you can see, will be related anteriorly with the, what is running here? First part of the duodenum. Behind, what you can see, what will lie? The inferior vena cava. And to the left of it lies the gastroduodenal artery. Then the relation of the infraduodenal part. So infraduodenal part will be related anteriorly. What structure will lie here? Obviously the head of the pancreas. So it is related anteriorly with a groove in the upper and the lateral part of the posterior surface of head of pancreas. Posteriorly, what will run here? Inferior vena cava. Lastly, the intraduodenal part, we have already talked about it. The intraduodenal part runs through the wall of the, to be precise, runs through the medial wall of the second part of the duodenum, about halfway down its length. As you already know, that bile duct is usually joined by a main pancreatic duct, and together they open into a small ampulla in the duodenal wall, which is called the hepatopancreatic ampulla, also known as the ampulla of Vater. You also know that this ampulla opens into the lumen of the duodenum by means of a small papilla known as the major duodenal papilla. Now a word about the sphincters surrounding these ducts. So the terminal part of the bile duct is surrounded just above its junction with the pancreatic duct by a ring of smooth muscle that forms a sphincter known as the sphincter choledocus. This sphincter is always present. It normally keeps the lower end of the bile duct closed. As a result, the bile formed in the liver keeps accumulating in the gallbladder and also undergoes considerable concentration. When food enters the duodenum, then especially a fatty meal, then the sphincter opens and the bile stored in the gallbladder is poured into the duodenum. Another less developed sphincter, which is usually but not always present around the terminal end of the pancreatic duct, is known as the sphincter pancreaticus. Then there is a third sphincter which surrounds the hepatopancreatic ampulla, and it is known as the sphincter ampullae or sphincter of Oddi. So what happens? Whenever the fatty meal comes into the duodenum, releases a hormone cholecystokinin. This cholecystokinin causes these sphincters to relax. As a result, the bile stored in the gallbladder comes in the duodenum, and the bile salts helps in digestion of the fat. A word about the cystohepatic triangle of Callet. This cystohepatic triangle of Callet is bounded on the right side by the cystic duct, on left side by the common hepatic duct, and above by the visceral surface of the liver. Its apex faces downward between the cystic and the common hepatic duct. Now, what lies within this cystohepatic triangle? The right hepatic artery, the cystic artery arising from it, and the cystic lymph node. Also, most of the aberrant segmental right hepatic ducts and arteries are usually encountered in this region. We have already talked about how these accessory hepatic ducts terminates either into the gallbladder or into the cystic duct or into the common hepatic duct or in the bile duct, and how they are responsible for oozing of bile from a wound after a gallbladder surgery, which is known as the cholecystectomy. The identification of the cystohepatic triangle and its contents helps the surgeon to locate pedicle of gallbladder and its ligation in cholecystectomy. What is cholecystectomy? It is surgical removal of the gallbladder. Errors in the gallbladder surgery often occur from failure to appreciate common variations of the extrahepatic biliary system. So these variations should be kept in mind. What can you see in this image? This is the gallbladder which is surgically removed. What is the procedure of surgical removal of gallbladder? Known as cholecystectomy. And the presence of gallstone in the gallbladder, which you can see in this image, is known as cholelithiasis. So a gallstone is a concretion in the gallbladder, cystic duct or bile duct, and it is composed chiefly of cholesterol crystals. They are more common in females, and it is remembered by a famous mnemonic that the gallstones are more common in fat, fertile female of 40s. Usually these gallstones remains asymptomatic for a very long period. They may show clinical symptoms when they obtain a large size, producing a mechanical injury to the gallbladder or obstruction of the biliary tract. The distal end of the hepatopancreatic ampulla is the most common site for the impaction of the gallbladder, as it is very narrow. Apart from this, it may also lodge in the cystic duct or in the hepatic duct. A stone lodged in the cystic duct may result in the intense spasmodic pain, which is known as the biliary colic. If this stone blocks the cystic duct, it may result in the inflammation of the gallbladder, known as the cholecystitis. This cholecystitis occurs because of the accumulation of the bile in the gallbladder, causing the enlargement of the gallbladder. Another common site of the impaction of the gallstone is an abnormal sacculation, usually seen near the neck of the gallbladder, known as the Hartmann's pouch. So you can see, the relation of the gallbladder with the duodenum and with the transverse colon. So a peptic duodenal ulceration may result in the rupture of the duodenal wall, and a false passage may form between the gallbladder and the duodenum, allowing the gallstones to enter the duodenum. A dilated and inflamed gallbladder, because of its proximity to the transverse colon also, apart from the superior part of the duodenum, may result in the passage of the gallstone from gallbladder to the transverse colon also, because of the development of an abnormal fistula between the two. If it enters the small intestine, it may result in the intestinal obstruction also. This is known as the gallstone ileus. The pain from the impaction of the gallbladder develops initially in the epigastric region, and later it shifts to the right hypochondriac region at the junction of the ninth costal cartilage and the lateral border of the rectus sheath. The inflammation of the gallbladder, that is cholecystitis, may also cause pain in the right shoulder because of the irritation of the diaphragm. If the bile cannot leave the gallbladder, it enters the blood and results in jaundice. If the people with the severe biliary colic usually have their gallbladders removed, and the procedure is known as the cholecystectomy. These days, the laparoscopic cholecystectomy often has replaced the open incision surgical methods. We have already talked about the importance of the Callet's triangle that has to be kept in mind during cholecystectomy, as the cystic artery, the accessory hepatic duct, the cystic duct, they may show numerous variations in this region. These variations should be kept in mind in order to avoid surgical errors. The impaction of the gallstone in the ampulla of Vater may result in the passage of the infected bile into the pancreatic duct, thus producing pancreatitis. Let me just summarize the site of pain of the gallbladder inflammation or gallstone once again. So the pain is referred first to the right upper quadrant or the epigastrium, as it has the same dermatomal supply, that is T7 to T9 segments. Apart from this, because of the irritation of the subdiaphragmatic parietal pleura due to cholecystitis, it is also referred to the right shoulder, because the subdiaphragmatic parietal pleura will irritate the diaphragm, which is supplied in part by the phrenic nerve. The phrenic nerve has the supply from the C3 to C5 segments, and the skin over the shoulder is also supplied by the supraclavicular nerves having the C3 and C4 root values. In this image, you can see the clinical examination of the inflamed gallbladder showing the symptoms of acute cholecystitis. So in this, apart from having pain in the hypochondrium and the inferior angle of the right scapula, a sign can be elicited known as the Murphy's sign. So for this, the finger is pressed under the right costal margin at the tip of the 9th costal cartilage when the patient is asked to take a deep breath. He or she feels a sharp pain and winces with a catch in his breath as the diseased gallbladder meets the examining finger. So this sign is known as the Murphy sign and is a characteristic feature of the acute cholecystitis. You all know that the cholecystitis symptoms are usually aggravated on taking fatty meals, as then only the gallbladder will contract to pour bile into the duodenum. Few slides showing the imaging of the biliary tract and the gallbladder. So this is your cholecystography. So gallbladder is not opaque to X-ray, but when certain radiopaque dyes are given by either mouth or IV injections, they are excreted by the liver from blood into the bile and reaches the gallbladder. In gallbladder, the dye is concentrated and thus the gallbladder becomes opaque to X-rays. So in this, you can see this is an antero-posterior radiograph of the gallbladder after administration of an iodine-containing compound. This is your gallbladder. Ultrasonography of the gallbladder. The ultrasonography is a non-invasive imaging technique to visualize the gallbladder and other components of the biliary apparatus. This is largely replaced now the cholecystography. So in this, you can see in this image, this is the gallbladder and it is containing multiple gallstones. So this is an ultrasound scan of the gallbladder. Endoscopic retrograde cholangiopancreaticography, also known as ERCP. This has become a standard procedure for the diagnosis of both pancreatic and biliary diseases. In this, first a fiber optic endoscope is passed through the mouth, esophagus and stomach. Then the duodenum is entered and a cannula is inserted into the major duodenal papilla. And then it is further advanced under fluoroscopic control into the duct of choice, that is bile duct or pancreatic duct, for injection of radiograph contrast medium. Then the duct which is of choice is visualized. So in this ERCP, you can see these are the hepatic ducts. Then this is the common hepatic duct. It's joined by the cystic duct. This is the bile duct. This is the pancreatic duct, and over here you can see the hepatopancreatic ampulla. These days, the bile and pancreatic duct can also be visualized by non-invasive magnetic MRI techniques.